Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day. We're reviewing this deep pour epoxy resin. This is a kit that was sent to me, and I actually want to do a whole project where I refinish my table. But to be honest, I'm a complete noob at this, so we're going to do a test today. So I thought, what better way to test than to make something that could possibly, if it doesn't work, could be thrown away. But this is for deep resin conditions, so it's supposed to be for stuff over a 1/4 inch thick. Although the reviews, I see them doing tables and different things, and different reviews on the amount of ratio to use. So some of the reviews actually say to use 1:1, but the directions say 2 parts A to 1 part hardener. So we're going to follow the directions today and see how it goes. So it says to measure them out by weight, not by liquid. So I have a food weight here. I've covered it with paper so I won't get anything on it, so that I can measure exactly 2 parts of A to 1 part hardener and to test this out. And so to test this out, we're actually going to make a bookshelf end out of a hamburger and some fries. And I've added a date on it to show the date that it was purchased. We're going to encapsulate it into a timeless piece of art with this resin. I've got a piece of Tupperware. We're going to mix it in. Like I said, this is my first time doing it, so we're going to give it a shot. The kit came with some rubber gloves. Came with a little scraper, which would work great, and a little stirring stick we're going to use. So from what I've read, it says that this is odorless, needs about 48 hours total to cure. So, and I've heard you can do multiple layers after a short time. So once it starts hardening, I'm actually going to put the burger in upside down and then do another batch of epoxy over it, let it harden for 48 hours, and we'll put it to the test to see how crystal clear it is and how well the bubbles work. And then we will have a hamburger encapsulated for all time and eternity, and I want to use that as a reminder not to eat them anymore, because that'll be my little desktop souvenir here. So let's put our gloves on and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to use a Dixie cup. I'm going to turn the power on here. So we're going to do 2 parts A, 1 part B. So we're going to start with the type A. This came with 2 gallons, so this is 1.5 gallon kit. And I've heard some of the reviews say they've run out of the hardener, but I think that's because they're using the 1:1 ratio. So we're going to try it as instructed here. I'm going to open this up. And so we're measuring in grams. So I'm going to try to do about 100 grams to 50 grams of the hardener, and we're going to see how that works. To start with, make sure this is out. So it's 0 to 1. There we go. So let's see. See how full 100 grams. So 100 grams is not very much, so we're going to do 200. All right, it's about 217, so we want to do about 56 more grams. So that would put us at about 273, I think, around 275 grams. So we're playing it by ear here. So let's add the hardener now. We're going to put it in slowly, so don't get too much. All right, there we go. So about the right amount. I'm going to put the caps back on the hardener and the epoxy. Okay, and we're going to start mixing it together. So it's turning into a nice liquid consistency there. So I've heard people say there's a lot of bubbles forming right at the beginning as you start doing this. So they say you want to wait about 10 minutes before you start pouring. So what I might do before I start pouring this one, actually we'll pour this one first, and then hopefully let it set for about half hour. Hopefully that'll be enough time for me to set the cheeseburger on and have it kind of be floating in midair, and then we'll place the next batch on top of that. So here we go. And what we're going to try to do is, since it will just be sitting in our Tupperware dish, which I'll later just pop it out of, I'm hoping that I can just mix it really well and pour it in now. Like I say, I'm a noob, so we're hoping to learn from our mistakes as well if we make any. And this may not be enough liquid, so we're going to find out. So it's mixed really well. Scrape it off of my cup. Okay, so now we're going to pour this into our Tupperware. A couple specks in our Tupperware. Let's get those out. All right, here we go. Here we go. Got it on my second camera here. There is the epoxy resin right there. I think this might work really well. Actually, I think this is going to be the perfect amount. And this will be a good indicator of kind of how much we need. I think we need just a little bit more to top it off when we're done. Okay, so there it is. There is the first jab of the epoxy. So it does have some bubbles in it, so I'm very curious to see how it finishes up. But this is really cool. So I'm going to let this sit for a half hour, and then we will come back, put on the burger, and we will make our bookend. It's going to be awesome. Okay, here we are. We're back. It's been almost 2 hours, so I just want to show what happened to this. Interesting, it's a little bit warm, but it's completely bubble free. So, so that's awesome. So you mix it, and then the bubbles kind of just disappear from the top. Consistency wise, I was hoping it would be a little thicker this time, but I think you really have to wait 4 to 6 hours. But we're gonna push ahead anyway because my family and I have an activity that we have to go to. And this is why you do these practice sessions. So I'm going to see, hopefully the burger will not sink down to the bottom or touch the sides. If it happens, no big deal. We'll have to do it again. Means I'll have to buy another burger, but that's okay. I have enough material that I could still try another shot. No bubbles. So here we go. So I am going to attempt to place my hamburger in it. So I have a little sign, kind of the creation date of May 16th on here. So I'm going to drop that in first, so it'll be at the top. And then, like I said, hopefully this this lovely little cheeseburger will kind of hover in place. That's the goal. So we're going to carefully set it in there. So far, so good. It looks pretty good. Okay, and now I should have done this first, but I'm going to hurry and mix this again. We're going to do another 200 grams of A and then B. So one of the things that I missed too, looking through the instructions, is you actually want to stir it vigorously for about 5 minutes. I did not stir it for that long, but we'll see what happens. So we're going to turn on our scale back to 0 grams, and we're going to pour about 200. Another thing, those of you with a keen eye may have noticed I did not put enough type B solution in the previous batch. So right after I shut off the camera, I added another 50 and I stirred it up. Had a whole bunch of bubbles, but they all dissipated. So this burger looks like it's floating around perfectly. So we're going to get it to about 200. Just slowly add some more. Okay, there we go. So we're at about 200 now, 200 grams. We're going to put the lid back on tightly here. Hopefully this is the last time we'll have to use it today. Got the cap on, stored up. Now we need another 100 grams for that 2-to-1 ratio here. This is the hardening resin. So this should bring us up to a total of 300. Another thing, reading through the descriptions, it said, this is for thick pours of up to 4 inches. So I think we're breaking that 4-inch mark just a little bit, which means it may take a little bit more time to cure, or who else will know what will really happen to it. This is a little bit of a big science experience. Okay, so now we're up to 300 grams. So the perfect 2-to-1 ratio by weight. My burger is still floating up plenty high. It's not touching the edges. In fact, I'm going to move over. This is going to be awesome. I wanted to put some French fries in, but I'm worried those will touch the edge. I don't want anything. I want this completely encapsulated. So I think I'm actually not going to do any of the French fries. So let's mix this one up. Let's give it a good mix this time. Not the weak little mix I did last time. So we're going to mix it good and plenty. I know it says 5 minutes. Maybe we can cut it down to 2 or 3. This is an experiment. I want to see what works and what doesn't. Here, I'm going to show the burger here while I'm mixing that. So there we go. My hamburger is kind of floating right through there. It kind of looks like it's touching the edge, but it's really not. It's got about a quarter inch to a half inch on each side all the way around, and it's hovering about the middle of it. So the weight of the burger is working great. So I'm going to keep stirring this. Stir, 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 stir. And like I said, it takes 48 to 72 hours to cool. There are some humidity and temperature parameters. I think we're within the range here in my house. At least I certainly hope so. If it's too humid, you'll get a little film on it. But I'm hoping to where it's going to lay on the bottom. I may be able to sand it smooth or just make it work. So let's keep mixing. But I'm excited to add. Low odor, doesn't have an odor to it, and no bubbles. So it's all working as described. So here we go. I'm going to mix it up a little bit more. And then we're going to call it good. We're going to do it. Love this little mixer that came with it. Okay, so now we are going to pour it in here. Here we go. Carefully on the burger. You see it's got all the little bubbles in it, but that's okay. I'm going to pour it around the edges. I don't want to sink the burger. Maybe I do. Maybe I do want it on top. I don't know. This is all an experiment. We'll see if we have to get some more. I'm hoping it doesn't float up. It might float. It's going to float. The burger's floating. Okay, so what I need to do. Okay. So here's what I'm going to have to do. Okay. So here's what I'm going to have to do. It's floating up. So I'm going to have to actually let this solidify. So while I'm gone on the trip with my family, I'll let this get solid. And we're going to have to create some more and put it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to get rid of some of this because the burger's floating. We got a floater. Okay. So we just wasted about 300 grams of epoxy, and that's okay. So we're going to let the burger float halfway through, and then when we come back tonight, it should still be within that 6 to 8 hour threshold. So it'll be hard enough that I can put the new liquid on it, and it should still be able to adhere to it, so you can't see the line in between. It's the next day. We're back after it not being set up enough. So I think look at the instructions. It's important that you look at the temperature and the humidity. But it's the next day now, and looking at my burger, it is firmly set in the resin. And it's looking crystal clear, no bubbles, just like it said. There are some bubbles around the bun, but I think that's kind of expected because there's some air coming out of the bun as it sets up. My piece of paper with a date ended up being right at the top, so I hope there is some space in between it so that it stays in there, but we'll figure that out as we go. But it's set in there. And that extra cup of, let me show that off. That extra cup that I had made is almost set up too. It has a little bit of give to it, but look how clear that is. Absolutely no bubbles, crystal clear, beautiful, beautiful resin, even in that thickness. So we're gonna make about the same amount, and we're gonna top this thing off. We're gonna let it set for another 2 days. I think 2 days should do it, 48 hours. They say 48 hours to 72 hours for complete hardening. And I think with something like this, we're gonna give it all the time it needs. I'm hoping after waiting 24 hours that it will still adhere to that epoxy is fresh enough that it won't have a line in between it, but we'll find out. We'll find out when we're done. So here we go. So we're gonna make up a new batch. We're gonna go with the same numbers we did last time. We're gonna do that 2-to-1 ratio of two units of the resin and 1-to-1 ratio of the hardener. So here we go. So we're gonna measure those out. We're gonna do it in grams. Put this on my scale, make sure it's zeroed out. And it is. Okay, so we're going to take the resin. Move it over here where I can see it better in the camera. Okay, so we're going to take our resin. Here we go. We're going to do 200 grams of resin. And I have to slow. It's kind of like a gas, like putting a gas, just slow it down at the end. So we're at 125, 130, 153. Okay, there we go. 196. Yeah, just a couple drops more. 198. There we go. 200. We're actually at 201. That's fine. That's pretty darn close. Okay, like we've reviewed before, you want to go by weight, not by volume. Apparently, there's a big difference there. Okay, so here is our. That was our. Yep. So here's our B. This is our hardener. 2A to 1B. So we're going to do another 100 grams. So we'll have 300 total grams in here. Okay. 297, just a little bit more. Okay, 305. So that should be pretty darn good. Okay, so there is our resin here. It's in there. We're going to use the stir that came with it. And they say to stir it for a good 5 minutes. So you see like a little bit of a color change as you're starting to stir it. I think that's just the reaction with the hardener and the resin. So you want to get it really stirred so they're all mixed up. Those molecules are jiggling against each other. It'll stir that up really good. I can fast forward through this. I can speed this up because we're going to make sure we do it for the right amount of time. Here we go. All right, I think that's stirred pretty well. Okay, we're going to just pour the rest of it onto our burger. Here we go. Here's the burger. Okay, so we're just going to pour it on. Like I say, you'll notice some bubbles when you first create it. That's okay. Ooh, this is beautiful. I want to make sure it completely covers my burger. Looks like just the right amount. Not so much that it's up to the brim and I'm going to spill it, and just enough that we're getting a good 1/2 inch to a 3/4 of an inch on the base of this. And this will be the bottom when we do it. All right, so there we go. So we've got the next set of resin up for my project. Okay, so I'm going to set this out for the next 72 hours, and then we will pop it out of its shell, and we'll see how it looks as my new testament to no longer eating fast food. That's my goal. Okay, everybody, so it took 3 days, so 72 hours, which I waited 72 hours just to make sure it was solid, but here is the hamburger we were talking about. So we definitely were able to use 2 parts resin to 1 part hardener, and it worked like a charm. This is absolutely solid, super hard, and just like it said, it was odorless, couldn't smell anything in the resin, and bubble free. There are some bubbles on the hamburger, but you can't help that. That's some bubbles coming out of the hamburger as it softens. So we're going to take it out of the Tupperware now. I put some holes in the sides. We're going to try and do it so I can show off what it looks like. Coming off beautifully. Oh, this is cool. Let's take this off. Here we go. The unveiling of my hamburger paperweight here. And I dropped it. Will you go grab it for me? All right, here we go. So I dropped it. This was in that Tupperware container. This is really cool. So it has the date of the burger, and now I have this burger encapsulated here for perpetuity. This resin is absolutely rock solid. Couple little bubbles that came out of the burger, but from the top half, like nothing. This is so cool. What I want to show you though is we had an extra cup of the resin too. This is one that I wasn't able to use because the burger was floating up. So this is a perfect example to show off. But I want to show you, this was a Dixie cup version too that I used, and it absolutely bubble free, super solid. The side stuck on, so I'm not able to peel it off entirely like I was the hamburger. But that is super cool. I now have this hamburger paperweight that I can use. But what I want to show us off is just how awesome this stuff was.